Hello, ma'am, we can't hear you. Kindly unmute and continue, please.
So the operator coordinator has muted everyone, and by default, I was muted.
Oh,
I'm not sure the
apologies.
last thing you heard. So, what was the last thing you heard?
Leap
Oh,
Africa
you're
is a
still getting
local
the question.
organization.
Okay. Super. Thank you, Peju. We are indigenous. We were founded here in Nigeria, and our focus is Pan-African, even though we were originally created in Nigeria. The vision for Africa is to have a very resilient continent driven by young people who will drive the sectors, will drive every industry, because they have the right ethical and principle leadership skill set within them. So naturally, our own perspective today in the conversation is not entirely unique, but it's different and interesting and also well aligned with what you've heard today already. Now, when we think about resource mobilization, we've come a very long way in the development sector. First, it was called fundraising. And right now, we call it fundraising, we call it resource mobilization, we call it resource outreach. There are a number of ways that we are rethinking the ability to extend your hand and say, give me funds to do what I think is a social impact project that I think is birthed within our own vision of pain, interest area, whatever it is, because you have to think about it. Where does a vision for an organization comes from? Where does it originate? Is it from the desire of the founder? Is it from the pain of the founder? Is it from the agitation of the founder? Is it from the spirit of a group of people who have come together to think around a particular solution? You have to think about that very strongly. And in thinking about that also means you're thinking about how we are going to source for the capital or the or revenue or income, whatever you call funds in your organization. But I think that the room is full of very young, aspiring organizations who are looking to become 20, 25, 50 years from now. Therefore, you're already on the right track listening to today's session. In that spirit, I have to also think about what were the old approaches that as Leap Africa, because I'm speaking from our own case study. I'm not speaking from what is generic out there that you can probably find on AI or any of these interesting tools that people now use to put things together, but really using Leap Africa as a case study. The old approach is and was where we were initially restricted through grants. And right now, that is not the case. The new approach we have is blended grant system, where you have to think about what is the portion of grants that is restricted and the portion of grant that is not restricted. Because first of all, you've got to understand that as a non-profit organization, NGO, civil society, grants will still remain to a large extent, a large way in which you are mobilizing financial resources. And I will be touching on both financial and non-financial in the next few minutes as well, because it's important that we think about resource mobilization, okay, not only about the money aspect of it alone, but the other okay things that make up the full gamut of resources that you need. Somebody's mic is open in case there is a sensitive conversation going on around your area. You can please mute your mic. Now, beyond the fact that grants itself can be restricted or restrictive, and we've now separated it, another thing when we look at old versus new is what is the portion of your grants that is restricted versus what is unrestricted? Because I did say, as a non-profit organization, you will still continue to attract and seek out grants, no matter how we become innovative and creative around it, particularly as we think about scaling. Therefore, what is the ratio? Whereas restricted grants or grants in itself has been 100%. For us, we've moved and broken it down into a ratio. And annually, what we try to do is to increase the unrestricted quota of our unrestricted grants annually against what we actually require. And why are we trying to do this? The first thing is, Pedro already spoke about not going hand in hand and begging. The only way you will not beg is if a good portion of your grants is directed towards unrestricted grants or funding, where you have quite a huge amount of autonomy in how that fund is disbursed, is utilized within the agreement, of course, and within the vision of your organization, within the boundaries of the course in which the funder has given it. So it's not money to buy yourself a nice car or for yourself to do whatever you think is needed at that time. Of course, you are guided by a well-structured proposal. The difference is it is not boxing you into every budget line has to be reported in this way, or the cost must be directed towards this, where you do not have room to evolve, pivot, adapt, innovate, and be creative, and all these other things that the second speaker spoke of. So therefore, you have to be looking out for how much of this is available, how much can we tap, and how can we utilize it. The other side of it is talking about the kind of budget or how our budgets are created. Now, 20 years ago, 25 years ago, 30 years ago, the way we budget as in nonprofit organization or CSIs or CSOs is that we have a very lean cost model. And this is basically just saying, what does it cost for us to implement the project? Now, the second speaker has already touched on the fact that we have to court our partners. We have to invest in relationship. Who is paying for that? Where is the fund coming from? If you have not adequately budgeted to allow for room and opportunity to be able to take 1 naira or 1 kobo or 10 naira or 100 naira or 1,000 to go into relationship building, because following up on that grant or following up with that individual who has the ability to make the grant in your favor, or to determine or to even wait out the 1 year in which the grant is going to come back to you, requires sustainability of your organization and the vision of your organization and mission to be running simultaneously. Therefore, you have to really think around how we are budgeting at the beginning of your fiscal year. So gone are the days of very lean cost models that really box us into simple projectized budgeting, but allows us to also consider what are the other things that we would need that will also go into part of securing that grant. So for example, when you are supposed to win a 50,000 or 20,000 grant, I'm using a very poor example, by the way. Let's say 2,000 of that is going into the administration of that grant. So even before it has come through, you've already allocated that the effort it will require from 2 or 3 or 4 of our team members is that $2,000, so that when the grant now comes through, or if it doesn't even come through, then you already know what is a sunk cost to you, or what it actually requires for you to run your operations or your organization as you await the disbursement, or even in managing that fund. That's another thing. And close to that is the full operations of the organization. Again, in looking at our budget and thinking of breaking it down critically, again, we're talking about being creative. You have to also figure out, what does it cost us to run this full organization, and how many programs or projects are contributing towards that? So again, the two speakers have used great examples to say your cost could be in this area or that area. And even when you disaggregate them, just like our first speaker did, saying that they have the NGO series, you have the NGO forum, you have the impact. And these are all the bouquet of programs and projects that make for the activities within the organizations. Therefore, with each of these, how much of that is that contributing to our total overhead? So essentially saying, for you to become sustainable, for you to really leverage and optimize your resource properly, adequately, sufficiently, you need sound financial management practices and analysis. That's how much does it cost us to run a program, or cost us to train one teacher, or trust or feed that student in the classroom, or provide livelihood training. You have to know it to the dollar, and that comes from sound management practice. So you cannot guess it away. You've got to be very deliberate and intentional about that. So as I move on away from what actually is it, to what then do you need to be doing, and where again our case study comes through as an organization, we have 5 core diversified streams of sourcing revenue in our organization today. And that might seem like a lot. I have to put a disclaimer to say that we haven't gotten it right all the time. We are also still learning, and we are still shaping, revising, and tweaking all of these things as we go. So I have not come here to say, yes, we are successful at it, we are fantastic at it, or, this is your blueprint and this is what you must follow. So there is that caveat behind that. Under the diversification, I already touched on the big capital funding for the organization, which is grants. But then also there are 5 levels to grants. I go back to it because the second speaker did emphasize quite a number of things I want to touch on. I already touched on the fact that our in grants, you have got to move away from just being heavily project based to including all the operations. That is one. The second thing to diversify is moving away from a single donor. When you look at the people funding you, is it just one organization? Is it one individual? Because you also have some philanthropists who are giving annual donations, who we write to, not Leap Africa now, I'm using we as a collective for the sector, who we write to say our annual summit has come, or our annual Children's Day is coming up, we want to buy school bags, we want to do this, and the person writes you a check. The person doesn't look at your report, the person doesn't look at anything, the person just knows that they are moved to always give you 100,000 annually, or even write you a check of 2 million or 2.5 annually. Now, I'm saying to you, to diversify that revenue model adequately, you've got to look for more than just that one person that is giving you 2 million or 100,000 every year for one thing or the other that you are doing. There has got to be more people. So there has got to be multi-donors or multi-philanthropists, multi-stakeholders who are contributing financially for you to scale or for you to become sustainable. The second also is the issue of the annual giving. Now, when giving is annualized alone, it makes it very difficult for the head of operations, for the head of the organization, CEO, COO, whatever your title is, to really strategically stay in that place of strategy and vision implementation or execution. Therefore, in disaggregating and also divesting or adequately disaggregating properly, you've got to be seeking multi-year grants or funding or resources. Where the person, I'm going to get to that in a bit, whether it's a resource towards in-kind donation or whatever it is we have to come to a place where it's quite long term, 2 years, 3 years, as much as it's possible. So it reduces the burden and the administration of seeking that one thing every single year. Another part of it is multi-project. Now, you can also come to a good partner, funder, whoever, investor, because they come in all names now, and philanthropists, who is interested in more than one thing that your organization is doing. So you also, to really adequately divest and be sustainable as an organization, you have to also be seeking out if that one can give to multiple, so that there is little risk to that project rolling away when the funding stops with one party or another party. But moving on to the second level of diversification, this is corporate partnership. I mean, I've known Peju when she was a core for-profit corporate champion lady at Sterling Bank. And now she's leading here in Sterling One Foundation. It doesn't mean that the mindset has shifted, which is why she canvassed heavily for what the corporate partners are looking for and why we should call them partners and not sponsors. So another way that Leap Africa has done it sustainably is corporate partnerships. If you look at, I think we used to have it, but we no longer publish it on our website. A very long list of Nigerian, international, corporate organizations that have supported the work that we're doing. And that is because it is speaking to quite a number of things that these corporate partners we're seeking to do or are seeking to do still. And that looks like many of the things you already touched on. So I'm not going to speak on that at all. But it's important that you are not just saying to the partner, come and build our classrooms or come and give us a chair or a table. It's got to speak much more to them, because there is heavy emphasis on how much their naira and kobo is going in a long way in also securing agency for young people or securing a good or socio-economic transition, whatever it is their priorities are. And again, when you think about the way and manner they're spending, what is giving them the best visibility, she already touched on that. I won't go over that. And it's important because it's way easier for us to begin to plot the lines. What is it that this organization does that will give them the right mileage if they collaborate with us or come into a partnership with us? Is it the platform to unveil their new product or service or material, or to even give a voice to something that they have been struggling with? Always come from the lens of support. And it goes further, just because they sense that that's where you are leading to, versus just asking them, come and do this for us. But what I'm saying is you've got to identify them as an additional way to diversify your revenue and become sustainable. Another matter is to also look at that like 2B. 2B is the in-kind nature of things. When we look at resource mobilization, there is heavy emphasis on the financial aspect. Now, we are also an enterprise support organization, meaning we already, by nature of one of our programs, provide and link organizations, enterprises to business operations that they cannot host or have within them. So as you think about your work and think about your overheads and think about, the fact that partners would still not pay for something or pay for it 100%. How can I get this? There are many law firms that are willing and able to give you 50 hours annually or give you 100 hours annually that they can write away, or makes them even feel good about doing something at no cost to them or at some cost to them, that they can net away in their books. But the good thing is you are receiving it, you are enjoying it, and you have it. So you've got to also disaggregate what is it that we need when you think about the resources for the organization. Is it tax consultation? Is it legal? And you might be wondering, what are we doing that needs legal support? All the agreements you're signing, all the MOUs that you're drafting, you cannot be sure with all the data protection and all the new way and things that is coming up by regulators, if there's going to be a future misstep for you, or even if a beneficiary will come 10 years from now and say to you, you do not have a permission to use this content that you have used. Therefore, there is an upcoming litigation. Now, these are the reasons you need to have the right support outside and even within for you who have already attained that opportunity to host your HR services or host your whatever enterprise system within. Otherwise, you've got to outsource it or get it for free. And it doesn't have to be a big name. FYI, before we begin to start thinking, oh my goodness, now I have to have a 10 million naira budget for things like this. No, it just basically means someone with the legal expertise and experience and willingness and commitment that is ethical and willing and able. So in-kind donation is also a way to diversify or your resource mobilization strategy adequately by tearing it apart. I will speak on and even L&D and mentorship. I needed to say that because it's a huge learning for you as a leader or for your teams to continue to be equipped. We talked about credibility. The first two speakers talked about competence and credibility. Where is that going to come from? Somebody has to pay for that education. And I don't mean, a post-degree. I mean it in terms of the 5-day workshop, the 6 long webinars, and all these other things that cost 100,000, 150K or whatever. It's something, but you also have to put your mind to it. So part of the way you are divesting is having a resource that is coming into your organization to impact knowledge on your team for free. Moving on to the third level of, I think I have quite a bit and I'm mindful of time now. One thing that we also do right now is to get a token. The phrase skin in the game is now being thrown everywhere. As you know, in the nonprofit sector, we love slangs, we love catchphrases, We love all these things. But the truth is, the truth of the matter is the truth of the matter. You've got to have a skin in the game. So our program fees is basically asking for those programming that we have. Somebody already touched, the last speaker did, pivoting and evolving and looking at your work innovatively. Where is the opportunity that somebody can pay for pay 10,000, pay 5,000, and you see more nonprofits putting out kits and putting out so many other innovative ways that they are asking for a token. The cost of a report that they have released for you to use is probably 9 million naira. Now, for you to download that resource, they are saying give us 10,000 naira. That should not be too much if you really want to invest in research and development. Every corporate sector has an R&D budget. What is our R&D in the organization, in the nonprofit space? We don't have that. So you've got to think about it. Anyways, I was thinking of something else before I said that. I was speaking about program fees. Program fees is allowing someone to pay for the next person to access our program for free. So it's not fundraising, but it's sustainability. If Chiwendu can give me 50,000 naira to participate in this program, it makes access available for Isaiah, where we can now give scholarship. So that is how we balance it. Right now in our own organization, that we have elements of program fees that allows us to be able to give some seats free, open for other people to be able to come into that program. And we also have already secured some funding, of course, through the grants, which subsidize what would have cost much more for little or nothing. But more and more, as we found, research has shown, if you do not have any financial commitment to something, even if it's 10,000 naira, you will not attend or you will not show up because it's totally free. It's when it's convenient, you will get to it. But if you have put your 10,000, you'll be one of the first people to say, when is this class starting? That's what we mean by the skin in the game, psychology and philosophy of things that's got to change. Anyways, moving on to services. The last speaker already touched on it. As a case example, we already do this already. There are two services we currently have, our learning management system and our Merrill advisory, are two ways in which we are absorbing services externally to implement. So for our Millers advisory, we have our own team of experts in research and learning, M&E research and learning. However, we also have a community of practice who are able to take on this project when they come. There's so much going on around that I have to speak to, but again, I'm pressed for time. Our learning management is saying that we host our own learning materials, digitized content on our own in-house system. But the thing is, it allows us to cater to even more organizations. For example, right now on that LMS, we are able to cater to 100,000 users at the same time, meaning how many users do we have for all the programs in this month, and how much of that space is available for you or any other organization to host your own LMS for your 100 or for your 200. And we get something for that to allow us to be able to power that software or system. As you can imagine, technology is very expensive and not one partner can give us all the funding for that. So we have started being innovative and divesting such that we can even get something to balance the optimization, the upgrades, and whatever is necessary. Moving on, because again, I'm pressed for time. I'm very mindful of the things I wanted to share. The last speaker spoke on collaborating and consolidation. I have several examples to share, but just to underscore that we already are doing that. What are we doing when we come to consolidation? Meaning, we have 5 million, another organization has 5 million. We bring it, it becomes 10 million to run a program. What it does, it furthers the impact, it furthers the reach, it furthers the policy or the campaign or whatever it is, provided we are aligned and we intentionally wanted to do something. Because let me tell you something, what you're doing is not is not novel in itself. Somebody else is doing something close to it or exactly like it or a variation of it. Therefore, there has got to be someone that you can partner with or leverage or collaborate with or consolidate your ideas with, and then it becomes richer and bigger, and you can bring your ecosystems together. Something close to that we also do is how funders are also putting funds together. If you check the news, there are new funds now where funders are pulling thousands and millions of dollars together for 10 years, for 5 years. Now, imagine if they were doing it singly as an entity or organization, an INGO, how much pressure they have and how many they are going to reach. And the same people they are awarding is still going to go and talk to the other 3 or 4. So now funders are even getting very smart with it. They are forming a consortium or whatever it is now. So therefore, as a nonprofit, we are also joining all these consortiums to align ourselves to equally find funding that will power up our collective goal. So if our target was 300, 200 for another, 100 here, imagine it becomes 1,000, just saying as a rough example. And so that is also an interesting and innovative way to sustainably come together and find funds or resource mobilize that will push your goal very far. So I'm going to stop here. I believe I can go on and on around many of these things, but I'm very respectful of time and mindful of what we need to do today. So I'm going to pause and hand it back to you, Christelle. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Kehinde, for sharing. I like the perspective that you closed out with, which is something we probably are not all looking at, the way partnerships now work. It goes beyond just somebody that is going to come and give me money, or the person that, I'm just going to provide a service, but we can also pull fund to execute our impact. Thank you so much, Kehinde. So please, if you have questions, kindly put your questions in the chat box. Kindly put your questions in the chat box and we will just take on those questions. I'm looking at the chat box to see if our participants have questions. But before I take the questions from the chat box, Kendi, I hope that we do have Nkechi back on the call. Please, Chiwendu, kindly just let me know once she has joined back so we can have both of them
Okay.
and help me give her access so that we can have both of them for the
Noted.
question and answer session. I think that both of our participants have really poured out their hearts and, they did not hold back anything in trying to share with us the things that we need to know. But Kenya, I would like to really see if you can really be very granular. You shared some examples with us on some of the things that Leap Africa is doing to see how to be sustainable. If you can please share more examples of some of those things that, small nonprofits, mid nonprofits can do to ensure that we are able to scale our impact, but in a sustainable way. So just examples of, key things that we can leave this room and start doing today.
Well, Crystal, all the things I did share are things that mid to large scale enterprises, nonprofits, organizations can begin to do. What I would say is there's quite a lot that has been shared. And now what they've got to do is to have a plan. What can we do now? What is possible given where we are, the number of people that work in the organization, the size of our budget now, and who is closest to us that we can begin to test some of these models on? That's one. Now, when I go into the granular details of the examples, now let's see which of the points that I raised that I can break down even further. I think I broke down the first level, which is tearing out the grant mechanism itself into multi-donor, multi-year practice. I think I did justice to that. If I look at the technical assistance side as well, I also asked us to begin to break down the resources that we need. However, for you to even do this very well and comprehensively, you must go to your budget. You have to go to the Naira and Copper side of your work to disaggregate where is our highest expenditure. So that is one granular thing you can do. Where is our highest expenditure? Who is paying for our highest expenditure? Where else can I get money to run this expenditure item? And so on and so forth. You've got to ask more questions. You've got to be able to sit with your accountant or financial manager, whatever their portfolio is. When you have done that, then you can now pair it against your programming or initiatives, and then begin to find out what can we do. Because even for the foundation, Sterling One Foundation, for you to attend the ACEs that she's talked about, you've got to pay something. That's part of the program fees. So even the big successful organizations are doing it. Another nonprofit does it very, very well. It's a sellout, their annual conference, where they are asking for 100,000. Now, the thing is, it takes years. It's a long game for you to get to a place where you can ask somebody to pay you 100,000 naira for 2 hours or 4 hours or 3 hours. So the practical example there for you is to now begin to build credibility. What are you doing and what are you doing well, and how well are you sharing the outcomes? I'm not talking about packaging. If there's anything at all, I'm not someone that packages things or looks for things to package because it's nice to package. So again, let's not try and package and try and be doing thought leadership by force. There has got to be thought leadership in it in the first place. And then we are also using that to engage practically. I'm going to pause here, Crystal. I don't know if I was able to give more nudge into some of those things I already said.
Absolutely, you did. So thank you very much. You know, I was already typing when you were saying it takes time and all of that, and I was typing credibility, and you just used that word credibility. Someone has a question here, and maybe also we can have our CEO available, if she is, to shed more light into some of these questions that we have. Emmanuel says, please, can you share networks, small organizations? And that's why I think a lot of organizations are still in the small nonprofits, gap, can tap into or leverage in the area of tax filing. If we know that tax is now a big thing for us in Nigeria, legal support and accounting. So I don't know if you have any thoughts on that. And also, Mrs. Ibekwe can also help us shed more light into that question. Kenny.
Sure, thank you. So you're already on the perfect platform. The NNNGO already has everybody and anybody that you want to reach. So let us, Sheyi is a very good friend. Only Sheyi is a very good friend. You can write him, you can write the organization to say, this is where we are struggling. The membership, does it cover this, and what can they do, and so on and so forth. Now, when I speak about networks as well, where you can tap into some of these resources, I can't give you a link. Let me not do that on another person's platform. Let me not do that. So it's why I'm going to stay with the NNNGO for now. And I think you already have all that answer. But then, the good thing about it is asking one-on-one with those who already are enjoying it or have access to those people, and also speaking to your own community. You might know that lawyer or you might know that tax consultant. I'm going to pause and turn it back to Peju.
Thank you very much, Kehinde. And I think you were spot on when you mentioned the Nigeria network of NGOs. If there's any other support that is required, and we have a sizable number of people within the room that are interested in that support, the foundation can support in that regard. We can curate the relevant professionals to provide that support. So I think it's going to be part of the post-event survey link that will be sent out. Technical team, please, project team, please note on if NGOs that are part of this session are interested in support with their tax filing, legal support, or accounting, and then we can take it up from there. When we have the numbers, then we can create a solution that works for the numbers rather than dealing with it, because I believe that a number of people also have the same question, but probably they have just not thought to ask it here. So when we have the numbers, we can engage relevant partners to make it happen, working with the Nigerian network of NGOs. I think that will be my response. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So yeah, I can see someone is asking, how do we send our details? I believe you registered for this event.
The survey, yeah, and the survey is going to be up very soon. So please, we need you. So maybe I can just even ask our communications person from Sterling One Foundation to please put the link for the survey. If you guys kindly fill those surveys and put in your feedbacks, it will help us to be able to get through to everyone that has, you know, one help or the other that is needed. And Mina, I see, Dr. Mina, I see your comment. Yes, very recently, the Nigerian network of NGOs organized actually Pan-Nigeria by region, you know, conversation around the tax conversation and how to ensure that we are compliant and all of that. Beautiful, beautiful conversation. So you want to please ensure that you fill the survey forms that are being shared currently. Chinwendu has shared it, and you can kindly fill, you know, the forms so that we can get your feedback on this particular conversation and also what it is that you would like us to talk better. Kinda, I'm not done yet. Your video is off. Please, I would just say, can you give us your closing remarks? I don't know if I'm missing any questions, but please, can you give us your closing remarks?
Right. I want to encourage all of us in the room because we are all aspiring and we aspiring for better. We're aspiring for greater impact. Therefore, we cannot be tired that what we're doing is not working because it is working and there is a long end game in it. You've got to, you know, incorporate the fact that your first proposal or your first grant or your first partnership outreach may not win or bring that in, but you've got to also practice consistency, patience, build credibility along the way, build competence along the way, and also focus on innovation. What is different about what you're doing? How does this serve and promote, you know, whatever it is? And what do you even know about whoever you're talking to? Some people call me a mister. And that, for example, if it were somebody else, can tick some people off, those people making grants. You address them by a wrong title. They don't want to talk to you or read your email or even push it any further. Or you've talked to them about cerebral palsy using Paige's example, and they don't do that. They're like, please, you know, not everybody will send back that email. So please know more about the organization, do more work around alignment areas, and you know, don't just overwhelm them. This is our proposal or sponsorship deck. Here you go. Tell us if you can or you cannot. You know, and it's not the calling that makes them give it to you. If in case you are wondering, the more I call, the more they will know. So please feel encouraged and let's, you know, change some of our tactics around. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kenny. There's one more question for you, but Mr. Femi, I see that your hands are up. Kindly just put your questions in the chat box. It helps us to just coordinate everything and so that we don't lose any one of it. Someone is asking for someone from a particular foundation, say they work in the youth you know, aspect, and the person would like to know, does Leap Africa partner with startup organizations? Because we know that there are probably some things that we need to have in place. And please, if you are putting your hands up, maybe you want to ask a question, kindly put the question in the chat box. It helps us to coordinate everything because we are also running behind schedule and we need to close. So that's question one. The second question, the person is saying, how can we best present our vision for the safety of Oyo State children to attract larger organizations as true partners? not just funders. So I think beyond, like what you said, beyond just the money, there are probably opportunities for funding, for partnerships. So what can they do differently? Those are the two questions.
Great questions. First question, yes, we support smaller nonprofit organizations working in youth areas. What makes it difficult for us to do too much as we would love to is short notices. Again, we are heavily projectized. We have several initiatives. So our calendar is always tight. The kind of resources that we provide is technical mostly, because sometimes the reach is for us to replicate what we are already doing. It will be very difficult for us to support your conference when we have our own conference coming up. So again, we have to be very clear what kind of partnership, where do we come in, how can we come in, and how much time do we have to make that decision or co-create with you a panel or whatever. So yes, feel free to send it through, provided it's along the vision area and mission that we've got, and project interventions too. The second question, quickly, I grew up in Ibadan, therefore Ibadan, your state is very dear to me, so I can't be biased. The first response to you is you have to have an endorsement of the public sector. So how much does the governor or an agency in the ministry know about the work that you're doing before you want to now attract a global audience? If the people in the state don't know enough or there isn't sufficient endorsement at that level, it will be quite difficult. So do engage with the public sector there, because I know that your state has very limited, not as much compared to Lagos corporate sector. So you've got to have the 360, private sector, public sector, social development sector must be visible within your program or project. And then for the other leg of it is speaking engagements and opportunities. Are you attending places where the global agenda is being discussed? Or are you having opportunity to also be in the room where there are more regional partners from other parts of Nigeria, other parts of Africa, or even the world are attending? How many webinars are you attending? The more rooms you get into, the more opportunity you are able to showcase your work that is going on in or your state to other people that may be interested. And then thirdly and last is the power of social media. Still very powerful, still very strong. You've got to look at it. How are you doing it? How are you promoting or pushing it so that people can see the work that you're doing right there in your state?
Thank you so much, Kende. I see some questions, and I think it just really jumps out on what I was thinking at the back of my mind. One of the beautiful things that you can do for yourself is, like I said when we started, is collaboration. People's details are there on the chat box. But you know what? Our speakers today, one of the things you can also do is they are all across social media. If you go on LinkedIn, I'm sure if you reach out to Kende, she will respond to you. So the first way is, can we just follow our speakers and just, really bombard them and look at the work that they are doing? It makes it very easy to reach out to them. The impactsummit.org link has been shared with us earlier. Kindly make sure that you do register, because there'll be a lot of funders in the room in that conversation, because our theme this year is financing for development. So it's strictly talking about funds for development. We have also posted the survey link for you to kindly put in, and let us be better. So Mr. Femi is encouraging as many people that, are not yet a part of Nigerian network of NGOs to join Triple NGO, because it helps to ensure that, you get all the support that you need in the non-profit sector. Kindly fill the survey for today. What it does for us is it helps us get your feedback, what we can do better, but also in the form you can indicate if you need help with your tax filing, legal support, accounting support, and all of this we can help you with. But you know what? This conversation does not actually stop here. You can go on Sterling One Foundation social media handles to continue to engage on these conversations, because we know that it doesn't just end here. So if you ask your questions in our DM, we will definitely get back to you. Once again today, I want to thank everyone that has been a part of the conversation today. What we talked about today in simple English is how to access more funds in today's world. And we want to say a very big thank you to our sponsors and the people that made this possible, and that is Sterling One Foundation. We want to say a big thank you to Nigerian Network of NGOs and the Giving Platform that is making this happen from time to time. Remember that you need to register for the Impact Summit. If you're not there, you're not anywhere. And your survey is very important that you fill it, because it's very helpful. We want to thank our speakers for today, our Honorable CEO, Mrs. Olapeju Ibekwe. We want to thank also Miss Nkechi Ulochi and also Miss Kehinde Ayeni for their time and all the input that they have given us today. God bless you, and we look forward to seeing you in the next NGO Diaries and also at the Impact Summit. Do have a wonderful afternoon. Remember, this conversation continues across all social media platforms. Have an amazing afternoon. Bye-bye, everyone. If you turn on your videos, it also helps us to take a picture so that we know that you are here. God bless you and have a good day. Thank you. Oh, all the people putting on your pictures. Thank you very much, because we'll just take a quick picture and we will not waste your time at all. Thank you. I'm hoping more people will turn on their videos. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Bolari. Thank you, Esther. Thank you, Gideon. Thank you, Efe. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for turning on your videos. And if your videos cannot come on, we understand, because the network can also be very crappy. Chindu, please, can you help us with taking up the pictures? I think we have about 4 pages, and so you can go page by page so that everyone is in the picture.
Okay, I'm doing that already.
Thank you.
Done. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, and do have an amazing afternoon. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.